How do you deal with clients who just tend to talk too much? Hi guys, my name is Deepak Shukla, founder at the Pearl Lemon Group. We're a business growth and development agency based in the UK, USA, as well as serving clients worldwide. And here today in day number 61, we're here to talk about the challenging kind of client who just talks way too much. But before we get into it, if you need any support with your communications, whether it's internally within your teams or with your clients, please do reach out to us. And feel free to click the link in the description below to get access to 7 additional strategies that are not shared in this training. So look, fundamentally, when it comes to clients talking too much, it's just, I mean, first of all, it's a real pain in the ass because you get onto a call and they'll incessantly talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And in some respects, I'm not the best person to answer a question like this because I'm someone who doesn't have the most amount of patience. But let's go through some of the things that I do think are important, irrespective of my patience levels or not, because it's going to be many of you like me, and or there's going to be instances and circumstances where you need to go, but the client keeps on talking. And that is probably going to be the biggest challenge when a client ultimately keeps talking, doesn't perhaps listen, and just talks and talks and talks. So there's things that tend to come attached to clients who talk too much. With it, I've got multiple examples of people I do have time with, but the client just doesn't. I mean, I've even got friends in business who talk. I'll say something, they don't acknowledge it, and they keep on talking, and that becomes super problematic. So let's talk about clients who do that to you. So I think one of the first things to, of course, practice. Let's get into it. The first thing, of course, to practice is you surprise, patience, because some of them you just need to let them talk in some instances, okay? But we're going to kind of remove that. No, we'll talk about that in a little bit more depth because it's also about balance, about knowing when someone's talking too much and or they're talking about the same thing too much, which gets away from the point or purpose of the call. So you might have clients that you spend 15 minutes with them on a call, which is a short amount of time, but you don't talk about anything productive because the client just likes to talk about this or that or this or that. So whilst you need to be patient, you in any of those circumstances need to practice assertion. So you need to say, Frank, we've only got 15 minutes, so I just want to make sure I get these questions answered. So practicing assertion is a little bit about frame control. So frame control is, yeah, so then we went out, Deepak, and yesterday, so you know what was crazy about what happened? I just spoke to Richard 3 times, and on the third time, he finally seemed to understand what was Frank. I want to hear this story, but we've got 10 minutes. Let me answer these. Let me get these questions answered to you because my priority to you is to deliver results to you. That's what you're paying me for. Let me get some. That's what you're paying us for. Let me get some answers to these questions. Is that okay? So, do you see there that you interrupt in a assertive fashion, but you underline the time constraint? So, introducing hard time constraints is also important. Now, of course, there's challenges within that. If a client comes to a call and they're thinking every time you come and see me, you're busy, but we'll deal with that a little bit separately. But trying to introduce hard time constraints or staying introducing hard time constraints. So for impromptu calls, you want to say, Richard, I've got literally 10 minutes and I need to go. Now, a lot of people will ignore that. Okay. You need to learn to not ignore that. So when it gets to the 8-minute mark, say, Richard, I've got to go. No, sorry, I can't. I've just got to go. I'll talk to you later. Anything else? Let's do it on email. Now, those kinds of stopping people short, hard stops, are going to be difficult for you to do in the beginning because you're going to feel your heart racing. You're going to feel the threat of discomfort, and you're just going to feel a little bit anxious when you interrupt someone who really wants to talk to you, someone who's paying you, and you come onto the call with a hard deadline, and then they're used to getting what they want. They're used to that spilling over, and then that doesn't happen with you. Now, I want to underline that if that is the case, then that's the client's problem and not yours. Again, we're dealing in the realms of clients who talk too much, and this is when you really don't have time, or they incessantly talk to the extent that it gets in the way of your ability to deliver. The primary thing for many instances is just to let them talk and to practice patience and actively listen and steer. So we'll talk about steering because I'm talking about now hardline interruption. Steering is no, amazing. So Frank, I want to ask you a quick question about so going back to the campaign, or Frank, going back to my agenda, or just look, so going back to the campaign or going back to the agenda, or I've got a couple of questions I need to ask. And what do you think about exit? So, interrupting when there's breaths or pauses with a view to going back to the campaign is the steer option. So let's just introduce that here also. Steer. So steering the conversation back to where it should be makes a lot of sense. So patience, letting them talk, practice insert assertion, frame control where there needs to be, a realigning of the call, introducing a hard time constraint when you come onto an impromptu call, or staying true to the scheduled time you have, and getting used to, do you have some more time? Unfortunately, I don't, but we can pick this up on our next call. While we're here, can I just make sure that I get some of these questions answered, or I find out this specific piece of information? So saying things like that will really help you. So steering the conversation back to where it should be is the soft strategy that you want to employ. And then underlining the North Star of the relationship, get results. So this is when you're not being heard and the message is not being heard. Underlining the North Star of the relationship is that, Frank, I'm here to get you results. It's really important we get these questions answered. I want to talk to you about ultimately what's going on with your dog, but right now I'm here to get answers about your cat because we're developing your cat business. This is just a random example, but if you implement these 5 strategies, and again, I keep banging on about this, practice different scenarios. So the number 6 is practicing different scenarios ahead of the call. So you won't practice this unless you have a client that does talk too much. When you do have a client that does talk too much, please just quickly practice with another account manager, a friend, a family member, or whoever you like to practice the interruption, to understand how to interrupt, to do it in an assertive fashion, to have the family, friend, or colleague just abjectly ignore you so you can go through these 5 strategies by using number 6 to ultimately get used to a different kind of interruption and being assertive when you do it, and you'll just get a much better result. So there you go, guys. These are the 6 strategies to deal with clients who just talk too much.